What's going on, everyone? So a running theory that I see a lot of people throw out is reincarnation. And I don't rule anything out with this show right? Talk about it all the time. Like, I don't think any theory, even far-fetched ones, I don't think you can really rule out because you never really know. And there are a lot of kind of clues with reincarnation, right? And to me, however, if I'm being honest, I don't necessarily buy that it's reincarnation. I think that there are just new iterations of characters, right? You know, like Miranda being Tabitha, and, you know, you have Victor, young Victor is now Ethan, and you have, you know, Christopher is now Jade, and you can kind of go down the list of these various characters that were previous characters, and it just kind of has this cycle of new characters. And the biggest reason, so for a while, I didn't think it was that crazy of an idea of reincarnation. And, you know, a lot of people point to, oh, Tabitha is the reincarnation version of Miranda. The only reason now I don't believe that to be the case is because of what Tabitha said in the most recent episode, episode 6, where she's relaying to Jade. And she talks to Jade and said, you know, we're trusting visions of a woman from 40 years ago, right? Like, we're hoping that what this is actually what it is, right? But here's a couple questions about that. And what I want to kind of dive into is kind of the fors and againsts reincarnation in being a prominent fixture in this show. And of course, I want to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below, so let me know. But when you're looking at kind of the timeline, so now we have a timeline per Tabitha. And if you look at that timeline, 40 years, Tabitha is older than 40 years, or should be older than 40 years. Now, we don't know exactly how old Tabitha is, so you could make an argument, you know, maybe she's 37, right? Or maybe she's 39, right? Also, is 40 years the exact number, or is it kind of a roundabout? Right? You know, maybe it was 37 years. Maybe it was 45 years, right? Do we have an exact number? Because if you look at the actual actress that plays Tabitha, Catalina Moreno, she is 43, right? So her being 43 years old, let's say that her character is roughly the same age, then even 40 years ago, Tabitha would have still been a child, which also lines up with the latest scene that we got at the end, right? Tabitha had nightmares and memories of Fromville, but particularly the village. But she is a little girl. She is like, you know, maybe 5 or 7 at the oldest. She might not even be that old. She could be like 4, right? She's obviously old enough to walk, but it's also a dream. So, and it's something that she remembers. So my guess, let's say she's anywhere from 5 to 7 years old. So Tabitha's got to at least be in her 40s. Now, is it possible, you know, that Julie, because Julie's kind of like the indicator. We know Julie's over 18, so it's like, okay, her 17, 18 age range, right? Like, so it's like, did she have a child at, you know, 16? If she had a child at 16, then yeah, she'd be, you know, in her late 30s at the oldest. No, even at, like, say 19, 20, could be at her late 30s at the oldest. But chances are, based on what we look and see from Jim, like, Jim looks to be in his 40s, she appears to be in her 40s, that my guess is that it's somewhere in that range. But as far as the argument for, one, you have the nightmares that Tabitha is reliving and remembers in the latest, or towards the end of the latest episode, and I imagine we're going to continue to explore that and kind of go down that path. You see in the kind of look ahead that Tabitha ventures back to that village, and Jim is taking her to that village, which makes sense because he's the one that kind of stumbled across it. He's constantly going back there for food and stuff. But you look at kind of some of the details throughout the seasons of the show, but particularly connections to Miranda and Tabitha being the reincarnation of Miranda. Let's go under the assumption that Tabitha is at the age in which she could be reincarnated. Well, you have a lot of similarities. The bracelet. She finds the bracelet in Henry's car. And she believes it's the exact same bracelet that she made that she found in Fromville, remember? And she's confident that no, it's not a different, no, it is literally the same one. Well, could that be memories? How did she know to make the bracelet? So her and Miranda clearly make the same bracelets, right? Well, is it possible that the knowledge of those bracelets are just a memory of the past? And, you know, you look at like little details like that are things that point to and go, okay, like that could be something. Well, let's take it even further. Well, Miranda had a son and a daughter, right? Well, Tabitha has a son and a daughter. And I know Thomas, you know, she had another son that passed away that died. But could that be why? Was that because it was just, you know, hey, she is meant to have a similar path and journey and kids and whatnot that are mirrored to Miranda. She has her husband and Jim, who, you know, could be, you know, Henry, right? So you have, like, even from a family standpoint, a lot of similarities. Ethan is Victor and Eloise is Julie, right? So you have the bracelets, which could be past memories. You have the family dynamic. You have a real familiarity with Henry. And it's something that I've talked about in videos when I've talked about Tabitha being Eloise, which I actually, I'm becoming more and more sold on, just again, based on the information we have. And we constantly are getting clues about that being the case, that she is Eloise or has some type. There's clearly a connection to Victor and the family, right? Whatever that is, whether it's reincarnation, whether it's Eloise, whether it's just her being, you know, a chosen one, as was Miranda, that maybe it's just the natural course of things and Victor still being alive. But you had this real familiarity between Henry and Tabitha. And so much so, I mean, I've talked about, there are several moments and instances where Henry's talking to Tabitha and showing and sharing things almost like he's waiting for her to remember, right? Like even the room where he's just like, he has all these questions and does not trust that Tabitha is telling the truth and thinks that she's just this Looney Tune off the street. And yet he goes, here, let me show you my daughter and son's room. He also never asks or mentions his daughter, right? Like there's so many things that you look at with her and Henry that are just like, it just doesn't make sense. Like he knows Victor's alive. He knows his wife died. He has no clue what happened to Eloise. And he just doesn't mention it. He just, you know, hey, no big deal. It's fine. I don't even really care, right? Like, no, it's almost like he had this familiarity to Tabitha. Was that because she's Eloise? Or is it because there was just this natural kind of connection because she is the reincarnation of Miranda? He sees a lot of Miranda in her because they're both chosen. Because they're both kind of walking very similar paths, and she's telling very similar stories to what he had to listen to from his wife. So again, could there be this kind of connection to it? And then the biggest thing is just Tabitha's immediate sort of acceptance of Victor, right? Like everyone else, you know, even Jim's ready to like end Victor and send him to another dimension, right? Like, and yet Tabitha's always like has always been very motherly to him, you know. And you know, the thought process is like, you know, he's very childlike. He's a kid. She is a mother, right? So there is that kind of dynamic in that sense. But it could also well be that she just has this natural motherly instinct towards Victor because she's Miranda, right? Like because she has that just natural connection to Victor through the reincarnation of being Miranda. Again, I don't, just because now that we actually have a timeline and now that we have stuff, again, I don't want to rule it out because you never really know, right? And it's very possible, like I said, that 40 years could be a roundabout. You know, maybe it was 45 years ago. Maybe it was, you know, 43 years ago. And how old is Tabitha? There's a lot of things that you can kind of use and pinpoint and go, well, okay, how do we know that this is exact? Because the numbers matter, right? If it really was 40 years and Tabitha is 43, well, then she can't be the reincarnation of Miranda because she was already born before Miranda died, right? Like, but if she's 39, let's say even, then yeah, it's possible, right? Like, you know, she died 40 years ago, she got pregnant, boom, like, as soon as she died, Tabitha's born, right? Like, that could be that. I think that there's just, you know, almost like a spiritual connection. I think that there is just this natural, because she's chosen, right? There's always going to be these level of connections. And we know that there's been these various characters throughout the history of Fromville that we're not privy to, but we know that they existed at some point because we know that other chosen ones failed, right? And also Miranda didn't unlock hers until she started doing psychedelics. Tabitha appears to have done it as a child. I think it's something where they both kind of unlocked their visions and psyche at the same time, right? So maybe there is that family connection, which is why I really lean towards her being Eloise. I really do. I really think that her being Eloise is more likely than not at this point. But as always, this is a discussion, and I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you think that, yes, that, no, she's definitely the reincarnation of Miranda? Do you have any kind of thoughts or things that you could point to and look at as evidence? Again, I personally don't buy it. However, I don't think you can rule anything out. And it's always good to have just fun conversations, because that's what this show really drives, right? Fun conversations, mystery, narrative, what's going to happen. And that's what I think makes this show so special and so exciting, and why these types of videos, I think, are a blast, because you really get to explore different possibilities, and you never really know. You never know what the end result is. So let's have a fun conversation down in the comment section below, whether you think it is, whether you think it isn't, however you feel. Love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Lets me enjoy these types of videos. Truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.